Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's SaaS from Scratch. I'm Vani from Kalaari Capital, and I'm really excited to have Kushal with us today. Kushal is CEO and co founder of Farai, a company transforming last mile delivery for uh, businesses globally. I think Kushal's story is very unique in that rarely do we see genuine category creation kind of products that change entire markets. And when he started selling, I don't think this category had a playbook. So today, I think we have a chance to learn from him, hear from him on his playbook to success and building a company that's respected and admired in a new category, or at least a new take on a old category. Kushal, it's a real pleasure to have you with us today. Appreciate you making the time and welcome.
Hi, Vani. It's been a pleasure. I think we're speaking after a long time, and I'm really glad and look forward to a good conversation.
Yes, so the first conversation for me is everything starts with the idea or the problem that an entrepreneur chooses to pursue. And today I don't see a single pitch deck that doesn't say deep tech. Okay, and sometimes we are scratching what exactly is so deep about this tech. But that aside, you were a pioneer thinking ahead in that genre, and also, I mean, you're very young now, but you were really young when you started Farai, and I at least feel, maybe it didn't feel like that to you, you picked a hard problem to crack when you started Farai, right? So, given all of that mix, how did you convince yourself, one, that there was a market opportunity, and what went through your thought process that gave you the comfort and confidence to jump into this entrepreneurial journey, which has been phenomenally successful? But going back to when you started, how did that happen?
Sure. And Vani, thanks for calling out more younger and young now. And I probably would ask after the podcast, what do you mean by both? But look, uh, so while the category we still say is new, but if you look at the problem, right, the problem has been old enough, right? Logistics, deliveries to our homes, that's been existed. And probably the first level of standardization happened when the postal networks were built up, where we actually got the postal codes, zip codes across different parts of the world. And there used to be a postman, and then they'll go and deliver letters, and it'll reach to almost every single village across the world or house, right? That's where it started. The both the good and bad part was logistics did not transform the way retailers moved or the way consumers evolved. So when we started in 2013, and it's almost 12 years ago, right? I think a good part of logistics is each one of us have an experience. So external as a consumer, and you know that you've received so many calls when the person is asking you, "Ma'am, where's your house? Will you be at home at this time?" And the shipment is not delivered. You're trying to really follow up again, and then you call, and there's a long queue on that call center, and they're saying, "Ma'am, it'll reach you sometime," right? And this, I'm not talking about today. I'm saying if you just go back 10, 12 years ago and try to imagine, right? Today we live in an era where 10 minutes delivery is also so much amazing, thanks to some of these founders and startups out there. But at that time, overall logistics and delivery was fundamentally challenging. And so there was an understanding of the problem from an external standpoint. Now, what I used to do was go to these events
Mm.
right? I think the point you were saying, right? Where do you get that validation and confidence that the problem you're solving? And these were retail events, e-commerce events, and my view was, and obviously the lens has evolved today, but at that time when I was to look at it, I thought the people who speaking on the dives who got these opportunity are the ones who are really changing the industry. They are the only ones who are doing that, and I would try to get a couple of minutes with those people and try to brainstorm or exchange ideas. Like, look, like if it's an e-commerce company, I will ask them, how important is logistics for you? What are you doing to solve for it? This and that. In that journey, I think once I met the founder of GoIView, Ashish Kashyap, and he shared couple of thoughts which really validated to we were trying to build. Then I'd met him, and
And
then in
he didn't even have a logistics problem.
correct. And in that journey later, I met one of the founders of Jabong.
Uh,
And so meeting some of these, like if you ask me, like, look, the sometimes we are shy.
mm,
In my case, I did not knew the industry, so I did not
mm,
had a choice, right?
mm,
I'm not from logistics background. I'm not from an e-commerce background. We just graduated from engineering colleges. We knew was like a thought was you want to solve some problem which creates some impact. Now, how
mm,
big or small it is, that wasn't really the box I was trying to look at it honestly,
mm,
and not even like what will be the pitch deck that I'll go to the investors and all. I didn't have clue about fundraise and VCs and that sort of a thing. Thought you really make money and that's how you build your business, or you have an extremely rich dad, and so then you don't need to look at that side. That's only two things which I thought from a capital standpoint that how it's available. So I met a couple of these startups founders. Their problem got validated, right?
mm,
And the thought was, look, I will pick someone who's visionary or who's willing to take that bet. It
mm,
doesn't matter how much money you make from that customer or from that journey. So Jibong was actually our first customer, gave us that opportunity. Still remember, we went to their office, spent weeks at their warehouse and hubs, went with the driver, what is the problem, and lived that problem for a couple of weeks. Then we did the few POCs with them, obviously. So when I try to look back, at least for me, I think the things which really worked was we were able to meet some of the really good people out there who gave thoughts, suggestions, advice without really anything in return. And that helped a lot. And second, I think going out there and meeting the people you want to work with or you want to sell to. So you realistically getting the problem validation that is that problem large enough for one of the CXOs of the companies we want to sell to talk about it or not.
So, I have a similar but different question. When I was a founder many decades ago, somebody said something to me which has stayed with me for a long time, and I use that as a inspiration, but also to when I meet founders. Um, uh, it said visionaries don't follow Gartner, Gartner follows visionaries, right? Meaning that it's not yet written about, what disruption some founders are at least creating, and those are maybe at times the best kind of problems to solve because people aren't thinking about it yet. Maybe the time is not known, like you were saying, and but problem may be understood, but it's not really being talked about as a solution or a business, right? Now, but the challenge with that, as appealing as that sounds, is you also then means that you don't have many believers because it hasn't yet entered the conscious stream of thought. So they have to go on a limb to see what you are seeing because things build up over time, in common knowledge, right? So, how did you go about convincing others? And Corollary to that is when founders think about starting something, knowing that it is going to be more missionary, when the language and the problem is not yet fully understood as a potential for value creation, right? It requires a different kind of approach with investors, with others, from a missionary perspective of being an educator and a thought leader. Other problems may not need that. So just there is a very nuanced way you have to approach that as a founder based on the category of the problem you pick to solve for.
Absolutely, Vani. And look, so maybe one part which I'll start with. So for a first professional fundraise, uh, I still remember most of the VCs I'd met. It was very difficult to explain SaaS, enterprise SaaS, at that point of time. That it can be really big and it can be built in India and it can be built on new category, right? And to the point you're mentioning, right? Look, because and it's not just about founders, investors. Like most of us want to go on a path which is already proven and validated, right? Because
All
it
right,
just gives
visible, you know.
it is visible, right? Correct. So if there's a company X who's solving a problem Y, now I know I can solve it 20% better at 20% lesser cost, right? I know the amount of success and the some degree of visibility on the path to success. Now, the interesting or the good part when you're trying to pick up a new problem, right? Or essentially an old problem, but the category is not being created, it's not been defined as such, right? Like the category creation is almost standardization. So people are living with that problem. They're trying to either solve it in some jugaad or some manual way, because there's no one else who's doing it in better way and telling them that this can be solved in this way. And so it requires a lot of education and lot of depth in terms of your understanding as well, because in that scenario you're not selling the product, you're actually selling the problem and how, if you solve the problem, what the future would look like. And if you do that rightfully, the outcome is pretty big. Like, I feel really good about the fact that we were the first one in India to bring Android smartphones into drivers for their last mile delivery, right? Like, from just a people perspective as well, if you try to look at it, drivers would typically spend 1 to 2 hours a day to submit that, because you remember the days where people will come with that big sheet of paper, ma'am, please sign here, and then they'll give it to you, and they'll take 1.5 hours in the evening to submit all of that to the manager. They will input in some system and it'll get updated. When the Android came in, and that's why the timing really worked out for us. The cost of hardware is really cheap. It has got GPS in it, so now you can build location-based applications in that. Uh, and in terms of, I still remember one of the largest logistic company which we partnered with again in the beginning. It took us almost 30-35 meetings to really agree on a fact that it can work, because people have been living for years and decades thinking that this might not work, right? And for us, the amount of the bet was, they said, look, the smartphones might not work, and we were like, it will work. So they said, can you give us these smartphones as well? So I still remember the first check which I had from the capital. I put all the money to get 500 smartphones, uh, because I believe that it can solve for it. But we took that promise with the customer that, look, we are not a smartphone company. You have tens of thousands of drivers. We will give first 500 phones. If it works, then we will not give the next phones. So I think the other is, what level of risk are you willing to take? Right? Because if I go back and said, ki, no, look, we will not give these smartphones, it's lesser financial, but it also gives the messaging that you are also not sure that can it solve or not. So it's like an open canvas, right? That's what like category creation or solving for something which has been existed for a long time but not solved in a proper way or in a standardized way for the others. So you get an open slate. Now, if you like creativity, if you want to learn during the journey, if you want to continuously evolve, it's a really great journey in that path, right? Uh, but some of us want a more fixed, a more planned, a more visible approach. In that scenario, this does not work. And I think to the point of Gartner, Vani, you were mentioning, so we signed, I think this is third year, 2016 or 17. We signed a deal with one of the largest logistic company globally. Okay. The sales process it ran for almost 15 months. And it was a very, very uh, deep, detailed, thoughtful, because they are the largest company. So obviously the things needs to be really proven, right? So they looked at 50, 55 vendors, shortlisted 10 of them, gave them online assignments. From that, shortlisted three, or actually called 10 for an in-person presentation in their headquarters, then shortlisted three to do pilot in two different parts of the world, one developing, one developed on field pilot. The process took 15 months, and I would have met almost 70, 80 people in that organization at all levels. And look, and I was extremely curious, and I asked them, I didn't knew the sentence which you was telling me now. So I asked them, look, is this how you typically buy all these softwares? Like, is buying so expensive? And their answer was, look, uh, we look at Gartner Magic Quadrants, and that's how we typically shortlist. For this, there is no Gartner Quadrant because this is completely new. So we had to go through this process. So this is all true because look, uh, as a buyer, I'm also, while I want to take a risk, but I also have a responsibility and I also have a job. So I am not putting at stake things which are beyond my level. And so essentially, I want to take a more fair, proven, calculated bet when I'm part of an organization and buying a solution. So the way it was saying, right, no one has been fired for buying IBM. It works, it does not work, it really does not matter. And I know it works. But that's so when you're doing new category and you are the new one, the point is it's an all-in bet. If you
Yeah.
win, like we started this last mile leader series last year, Vani, and this essentially to get all the people solving for last mile across the world together. We started we've done four series in Asia, Africa, Europe, and then America as well. And the best part is now everyone in that industry who's been working for 20 years, 30 years, from Fortune 500, from the next decade, they look at us as partners. They co-build with us, they co-innovate with us. Like even with this entire new shift towards how well can we leverage AI, generative AI to further create value. We get that chance because all our customers look at us. You are the creators, so we can partner with you. So the outcome is you not only create the product or a business, you actually get an opportunity to build a larger impact and to associate yourself with that category, right? In a different way, where like I call it internally as well. Like we go out and we say, "Oh, Pepsodent wala Colgate is what I want to buy," right? So it's some products have defined them as that category. I feel that's far beyond than the money, the revenue, the impact you're creating. It's to really get everyone together, agree on a problem and a solution, and then you get a big reward for doing that as well.
One of the things that I see most SaaS founders early in their journey struggle with is customer segmentation. Obviously, they either solve for it and then they continue to grow their business, or they don't effectively solve for it. They think they have, they're constantly in this customer discovery mode. So I see this, right? Because customer profile and focus becomes the anchor to so much of your other choices, if not the product. And the fallacy, of course, is my product can work for everybody. Um, your sales teams, your strategies, your pricing, all kind of depend on that customer profile. And challenge, of course, is crossover to different profiles. It's neither easy nor quick. So there's lost time and, of course, cost or capital to it. Selling to SMBs is very different from selling to enterprises. How did you manage that and transition that, which you have done quite successfully?
Look, successfully, I wouldn't fully agree. I think this uh, countless mistakes we've made in the journey, learning with some of them still trying to figure it out. But yes, now we feel we're in some level of predictable motion in terms of GTM to what you're saying, right? And I'll tell
Yeah.
you a really interesting incident. And this is my first meeting with the post funding round with Alok from Elevation, which used to be SEF partners back then, right? So, post everything gone, first board meeting, we have about, I think, 15-18% churn. And I really do not know how to bring it on the table. Like, this is the first meeting after the check you're having with your investor, and what you want to start with is, look, I've had an 18% of churn. And we were initially selling to a lot of startups because you can easily reach out to founders. Their decision making was very, very quick. Deals was making the money wasn't really a problem. They were okay to take aggressive bets. But this is the time when a lot of startups were then shutting down as well, right? So suddenly, a lot of our customers are either going out of money or shutting down. Now, I think that's where generally a big part is also played by the people around you, like some of the, specifically the investors and advisors that you have. Because you're trying to learn as well, right? And you do not know until you try out a lot of what is right, what is wrong for your business with that context.
Mm,
Uh, so then instead of really reacting deep, Alok said, let's do one thing. Let's just walk through all the customer journey. So we looked at customers who spent 12 months, 18 months with us, and we could see a pattern that
mm,
large customers are sticky and they were growing.
mm,
Startups were something which is not really like the SMBs, which you were saying were not that sticky because of the external changes and environment which was happening. Now,
mm,
at that time, we had to make a choice. Do we take a 30% cut and say
mm,
we'll only focus on enterprises? We know the deal cycle will be longer. We know the revenue capitalization will also take time, right?
mm,
And existing startup business is also somewhere you'll slowly write it off as well.
mm,
But we both wanted to solve for longer term. Uh, and then we looked at it, it made a lot of sense. And I think we, as internally co founders as well, all of us agreed to it. Uh, and then we said, let's focus on enterprises. So,
mm,
like, one of the things which I would say is, look, we spend a lot of time in analyzing which bucket to go for, which bucket not to go for. In our case, it was actually more learning on the ground that this segment is not working, and this is the one which is working for us. Then we purely focused on enterprises, build a sales motion, build all of it. Uh, so it is, and then we also said it's not that we'll not operate with all SMBs and startups. We put up a condition that, look, let's be selective where we want to place our bets, where we want to grow our business with. So in our case, the good thing was last mile and logistics overall is a new category. So I had a choice to operate at both enterprises and SMBs. Enterprises were willing to take that bet. Now, the good part in enterprises is it's a long-term contract, it's more predictable. The budgets are not really a constraint. They have deep pockets. It depends upon how much value you can create. The tough part is how do you get in? Uh, and we already had multiple success stories on the enterprises side. So we said, look, we'll go and focus on that. So one was, if you've experimented both, I would suggest learn from what that customers and that behavior is showing you, but then address a bit. Sometimes we don't want to leave the money on the table, so we like, okay, we'll do five large, three small. That I feel in a larger run becomes really tricky because you have limited resource, you have limited capital, you have limited time. You can't solve for both at the same time, especially in the early journey. So worthwhile to take few customers on both and then say this is where real value creation and scale looks for me, and then just double down on that.
See, Kushal, the thing is, of course, everything you said is obvious, right? The problem is in life, in anything, certainly for an entrepreneur, is living the obvious. Okay. So the data generally might exist, but how you look at the data, if you look at something sideways, upside down, straight in the face, it all has different perspectives it offers, right? And a lot of times we massage the data to fit the truth we want,
That
but
is true.
really letting the truth come through is easier said than done. So finding that patterns, being open to that, changing one's own opinion, those are easy to understand, but not as easily embraced in actual um, uh, lived experience. And I can tell you that with seeing lots of founders as part of my job. So clearly there are some attributes and traits you and the founding team have to just go through the deep questioning. And that brings me to another very obvious question. Everybody talks around customer satisfaction and customer success. Everyone wants it, right? And or want to create that. But only very few companies make that their real edge and becomes a real moat, right? And you talked about your last mile leadership, which, by the way, is just such a great concept and brand marketing thought leadership. So you talked about that. Maybe some of those are the real moats, but how did you think about creating real moat out of customer success? Because it's another one of those oxymorons, because everybody talks about it, but very few really actually achieve it.
I think Mani, what you said is so true, and I think all of us, or at least us, also fall into that bucket where a lot of things which today probably look obvious were obvious that day as well, and we didn't see it, right? And I think that at least one of the patterns which I've seen is sometimes we are really excited or really marry the solution instead of the problem. Like if I still go back and remember and the conversation when we were looking at that data, we're like, look, guys, what do we want to solve for? Right? We want to build a large uh, logistic tech, last mile tech platform. We want to do it for different parts of the world. Now, if that is what we principally agree, now let's look at what are the multiple paths to reach it. What is more doable with the DNA that you have, and how much real is it, right? I think the challenge happens where we are married to a solution, and then when we're looking at data, we it's essentially that. Ideology where you are now looking the data in the way so that it validates your solution itself, right? So you get into a self like you avoid seeing the real truth because you're too much into the solution itself. And that's somewhere till date I also try, to, like, whenever there is something you want to look at, step back, look at the fundamental problem you want to solve for. Then whichever solution, it doesn't really matter, if you can do it and your org has that DNA to really execute to that as well. Now, to the other part which you're mentioning, that on the customer success side, so what we had started was, one, it is obvious, I think, and it's something that everyone wants, right? Like, if you go to any business and ask them, do you want your customers to be unhappy? No, everyone wants their customers to be happy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point you're trying to
Yeah.
refer. But then, is every single customer happy? No. Is every single business able to do that? That is also no. I think let's get into somewhere, some of the hard choices you have to make. If it's easy, genuinely everyone would do that. But I think it starts obviously A, at the top, and then B, some of the decisions and choices we would make. Like, initially, early customers, we didn't knew tech that well. We remember the days where our platform would break, it'll create problems and all. And we'll still meet the customer 1 hour, hear the blast. Couple of occasions, I asked them to come and meet the entire team, share that feeling with everyone. Like, if platform goes down for an hour, what does it mean on field for a logistic company? What does it mean for a retailer? I think the one big gap I've seen is, sometimes the people who are building it, the engineers, technology team versus the customers, there's a big gap. So it's difficult for them to understand the impact of a small problem or small challenge. I think that case, I was super lucky, a great co-founder, and then also someone who went deep from a customer centricity standpoint, and we always exposed our team to the customers itself, so they understand the nuances of what happens when the platform or the system, or when your customer is not happy. Like, the internal saying we have is, if a platform doesn't work for a day, we actually don't need to come next day, because our customers have already figured it out what to do without Far Eye. And if they figured it out, then we generally don't have a work to do tomorrow. And then sometimes the choices becomes when we've got two escalations or two calls to come on. One is a customer complaint, the other is a new deal you want to sign up. Who would you, right? And we openly had that debate and brainstorm in the large leadership team as well. That, would you choose a customer complaint, or would you choose a large new deal which you're signing up? And some of that really tells, while you know what is right, but you'll still
But
probably
what is
don't.
the answer? But what is the answer? Is there a silver bullet answer to that?
So it actually, in discussion it evolved. Initially, the answer was, look, we look at a financial impact. Then it said, if it's a large new deal, we'll obviously want to go and sign with that, right? But then it came to that stage. If they have a problem, what will you do? Then again, it goes back to that. If my customer has a problem, that's what you stand for. Now you solve for 100, you solve for 500. If your customers are not happy with the way you're solving, the count really does not matter. So then for us, fundamentally, it came to that we'll always prioritize and we'll try our best to have a complaint at the top than actually a new customer we want to sign up for. Uh, because if I want to write an email very transparently to the customer that, look, I have a issue with one of the customers I need to go and take care of, and I'll not be able to do a call today. I'll come back to you tomorrow. You'll far more appreciate that than if you get to, so point is, look, everyone knows everything. So if you take some of those smaller examples, first you answer for yourself. Like, even my first answer initially was, I will obviously go where the financial impact is bigger, and that's how I would want to look at it. But as you go deeper and deeper in that question, it gives you that, what do you mean by impact and why you started in the first place itself. uh, and maybe just one more element there, and it gets scaled. Like, initially when you're small, it's easier because you know everyone knows you, and they kind of echoes you. As you scale, it moves in as a culture. So then eventually for you as a role, uh, gets into, can you take care of your people, and then can your people take care of the customers for you? If you're able to build that relationship, and we've tried it so many times. Sometimes we're able to do it, sometimes we need to learn, sometimes we need to improve as well. But that's what creates then the organization culture, that they know that if they do it, you will appreciate them, you will not put them on the penalty or on the negative side of that.
Yeah, so like with so many things in this one also, what on first blush feels like an obvious answer and maybe even right in the short term priorities may or may not be right in the long term priorities. And leadership is, making, finding that equilibrium, making that choice, empowering your team to do that. And of course, another overused word like customer success is culture, and culture is built on these small things and different choices, not right or wrong, but the choice you make defines the culture at the end of the day. It's not prescriptive, it is action, right? So
Right.
and I'm sure with your leadership, that culture is a daily lived reality for your team and employees, and best kind of cultures. I want to ask a very, how should I say, unavoidable question these days, it seems like. And so the more all of us collectively talk, maybe answers emerge through that learning, which is um, intelligence in the room, which is the artificial intelligence, you know. Of course, all of us are reading daily, using it in some way daily, and have accepted that there's no living without AI in the future, much like electricity or whatever. It'll be so embedded in our lives that we don't even pause to think about when it wasn't, right? Um, so it's become that word, however, today, because it's new, that one more word that shows up in every pitch deck. Okay. So, question to you: how are you using, AI today from a business perspective? How are you using it in your personal capacity? And what do you see from your perspective, how maybe new category of startups could have opportunity open up for them with a radical shift in technology capability?
Yeah. So look, And I think I'll break it into different parts, right? One, obviously, look, anything which comes new, it's attractive, it becomes flashy, I think, to the point you're mentioning. And then everyone starts at least packaging it to a large extent, and then figuring it out as well. And I think you, as an investor, would probably know it far better than me that if there is an AI word, there is an AI domain, there is a different multiplier that gets added if you're genuinely doing it, right? But that creates that excitement and interest, sort of a thing as well. So for us as logistics, look, this uh, every delivery has thousands of data points, right? So the amount of data in terms of customers' behavior, customer choices, different products, different carriers, different drivers. So we've been leveraging AI for a long time. Like what we call it as a traveling salesman problem, route optimization. That I have 1,000 packets, 10 drivers. What is the best way to deliver it? Now this has crazy number of options. But I think the biggest change now is two things. One, with generative AI, so it's become a lot more easy to interact and consume, right? And I feel the biggest change is happening. One, obviously, on the way we do day-to-day work, specifically the one which is repeatable side of things, but the other is also on the interface side. like the entire UX way which you used to have, right? I think that moving it to more conversational with generative AI, that is the biggest transformation, because the way I experience anything builds habit, or I take a decision I want to use the product or not use the product. I think generative AI fundamentally made it so simple for people at different uh, industry, different intellect level, different age groups, because it's almost like you're talking to the system, right? So, and that's where I feel the entire software side, there is a huge revolution to happen. Some will lead that, some will follow it. But that UX standpoint, which used to drive adoption, which used to drive stickiness, is genuinely solvable with this new generative AI, or essentially a conversational based platform, uh, if you ask me, right? Now, on the other side, uh, like in our space as well, we are working, brainstorming with some of the customers where can we build towards a virtual transportation era as well, where a lot of work which is happening only on desktop or system, can that be completely driven through a system? Now, it there's so many people who do hundreds of things, and the thought never came up. But today, when we try to look at it, there is realistic possibility, because the amount of time you spend on software, learning software, using the software, solving for the exceptions, that itself has become pretty big. So I feel the horizontal of or creation of platforms, probably that wave is already mature to a certain level. Next big opportunity exists if you can have vertical applications, because generic will not be as deep and detailed in vertical, and there's a for huge workflow. So if you have an industry understanding that this is how the operations run in that industry, these are the different people, so jobs to be done, or what are the different personas and do it. If you're able to define that, I think it's a huge opportunity today to start and really go deep in a specific industry and solve for a uh, better outcome, and then also from leveraging people to do tasks which are more human. So where I want to spend time with customers, I want to look at so I feel creativity will have more time now, and a lot of repetitive and redundant work. Like, and that's what we try to do in our organization as well, and which is not just from a product, but even as functional as well. So the amount of work where it's more just repetitive, and we used to have someone who has that software knowledge, that domain knowledge, that is getting more and more automated. But stuff where you need real thinking, creativity, first principles, that space is getting bigger and bigger.
So, if we can take a question from one of the listeners' audience, is from Smita, to what you were speaking. Vertical SaaS often gets labeled as having limited TAM. How did you overcome this? Would love to learn from your thoughts.
Yeah. So, look, two things, right? One, if we're talking about labeled from an investor standpoint, right, the difference happens is in horizontal SaaS, you will reach to a single digit market share in terms of competition, in terms of number of options. In vertical SaaS, contrary, the difference is you can have a larger market share. And then the second point is the expansion opportunities are significantly high because you get deep connected to that industry, right? Like for us as last mile logistics SaaS, most of our conversations with the customers, even till date, is what is happening in logistics, what is happening in last mile, what have you learned in last 3 6 months, what new can we do. Now if we were a horizontal platform, and we started actually contrary on a horizontal platform as a field workforce, that any deskless or a field worker will do it. But we soon realized the amount of value we can create is limited. If we go in depth, the value creation is higher and hence the ROI. So I feel the market share becomes significantly different matrix, and your NRR or expansion becomes a large or a more real and big opportunity, because then you are deep in that industry and it becomes defensibility and a moat as well. So if you're able to get those things on top, demonstrate that to both yourself, your leadership, and investors, I think then I don't see a challenge of people backing up. And there's enough proven vertical SaaS leaders today where they've chosen an industry and created a large outcome in that.
So, uh, one fun question, right? Because we are almost uh, uh, out of time. Uh, like AI, and briefly we mentioned deep tech earlier in the conversation, robotics is another area that will see dramatic integration, not just from an industrial perspective, which of course is already happening, but deeply into our personal interactions, personal life as well, right? So, it's almost inevitable, and maybe, I don't know, every one of us might have a vision of R2D2 that we would want in our life. But if you could build by a robot to take over one part of your job, what would that be?
Yeah, so look, for me, one other thing which I genuinely feel, and it's more of a moving, like having your car as a flying vehicle. And I think specifically one in knowing that based out of Bangalore, in general, the amount of traffic and congestion at different parts of the world and the amount of time, like at least what I hit multiple times just as a person is when I'm driving in this extreme amount of traffic, and it exists at almost all urban cities across part of the world. The point is population is also increasing. By the time the infrastructure gets planned and built, we all have crossed that stage itself, right? So it's always that how do you really match to that increasing demand and then increasing population with that fact as well. So if you ask me, my version of R2D2 is a flying vehicle, personalized. You're able to drive, you're able to fly with it, and then something then you can use. Park it very easily. I feel that's one which, and I don't see it as a far-fetched vision as well. I see something which gets far real more quickly, as all of us are going through that as a problem.
Yeah, there are certainly many, many urban mobility problems that are acute right now and will only get even more acute as time goes by. And uh, and last question, first of all, to you, your team and family, happy Diwali coming up soon, right? But what is and to the audience also, happy Diwali and be safe. What's a favorite childhood Diwali memory? We all have, we carry our nostalgia, and I can tell you as get older, you carry nostalgia more. I can tell you that from my life experience today. So, what is and Diwali is that time where all of us have something that's favorite from our memory. So, what is that for you?
Absolutely. I think first, I think from thank you for wishing Diwali, and I think happy Diwali to you and to all you listeners as well. Uh, Look, multiple memories. Look, so Diwali as a fest, like there are different festivals, right? And I'm just saying more from personal aspect. In general, Diwali is associated with the feeling of happiness, while all festivals are. But here, just that factor of joy is far more higher. And then whoever you were around with, right? Like be it your school days, be it your college days, it just creates that atmosphere that you want to go, hug everyone, wish them Diwali, eat some good food, wear beautiful clothes. I think it's just that the feeling of togetherness, right? And the way we used to have as childhood, and I used that time we used to live in Chani Chowk. Okay, and then this old Delhi, and my grandfather had like the 30, 40 houses we had to visit. Let me put it this way right now, all cousins and all. So what we'll do is it'll start almost as a drill at evening 4, and we've set up 20-20 minute slot. 20 minutes puja at your house, 20 minutes puja at your house and all. It'll continue till 3 a.m. 4 a.m. used to be a last puja, which used to be at one of the shops. And that time there was this shop called as Asharam Parathe Wale. It's still there. It used to be on overnight. So
Uh,
4 a.m. we'll go buy parathas from Asharam and then sit there and eat parathas. And I think if you ask me,
and
uh,
nothing tasted better, right?
yes, that is one feeling which I still like have it. Like, and this is you've been super tired, meeting everyone, celebrating,
Yeah.
and while you feel all that was joy and this, right? But today, when I try to look back, that 3:45, 4:15, whatever the time is, getting that paratha, sitting on that street, and just having parathas with people around and family, that was probably the best feeling if you ask me, or something which I remember a lot and has a nostalgia.
In closing, lots of people I know, and of course, we all should be healthy. We all should be cognizant of what you eat. But, this resolution during Diwali, I'm not going to eat sweets at all. I think denial is also another sort of thing we need to think in balance. But I'm not encouraging anybody to uh, live a life that's not real to them. But I think for myself, I'm pretty disciplined most of the time about eating, sleeping, exercise. Diwali is one time where to overindulge a little bit because it's that joy, it is that celebration, it's the people you are with. I definitely do that guilt free. So I hope everyone finds their joy and their indulgence, whatever that is. And if we don't indulge at all in life, everything else we achieve, the success of Farai and success of anything else, um, has to be balanced with, joy and love and friendship and family. So, on that note, thanks for making this time, Kushal, and I really enjoyed the conversation and wish, of course, you lots and lots more success ahead.
Thank you, Vani. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I think I really enjoyed the conversation. And yes, I think all on for the indulgence for Diwali.
Yes. All right. Be safe though, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will talk again soon.
Thank you.